Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so today we will go through the answers from yesterday. So please open up the notes that you've made from yesterday and have a look through your answers to see how much you have gotten right. All right. So we're going to start with the short answers, 6.13.
Now, listen to a lecture in a civics class. When you think about the environmental movement, what images come to your mind? Activists protesting against corporations that are polluting our land, air, and water? Nonprofit organizations pushing the government to protect our natural areas? Or maybe you think of hippies and flower children that dream of being one with Mother Earth, which is understandable since the 60s and 70s are said to be the origins of the modern environmental movement. But did you know that humanity's concern for environmental problems dates back much, much earlier in history?
So we can hear when they say much, much earlier in history, that's what they're talking about, ancient civilizations. So in the question, they've actually used different vocabulary or different terminology. So you need to make sure that you listen out for the meaning of the words and not specifically for the words. So here he goes.
Romans are widely known by historians for their attempts to prevent air and water pollution.
So one of the ancient civilizations would be the Romans.
Archaeologists have also discovered that ancient peoples in China, India, and Peru practiced soil conservation some 2,000 years ago.
You could also have ancient China, Peru, northern Italy, I think he said. So there's a couple of different ancient civilizations that they've spoken about.
Then there are the countries.
So when you're giving, because these are short answers, when you're answering them, it's not one word answers. So they talked about the Romans, and let's hear what they did.
When you think about the environmental movement, what images come to your mind? Activists protesting against corporations that are polluting our land, air, and water? Nonprofit organizations pushing the government to protect our natural areas? Or maybe you think of hippies and flower children that dream of being one with Mother Earth, which is understandable since the 60s and 70s are said to be the origins of the modern environmental movement. But did you know that humanity's concern for environmental problems dates back much, much earlier in history? The Romans are widely known by historians for their attempts to prevent air and water pollution.
Okay. So for the short answer, it wouldn't just be Romans, it would be the Romans who tried to prevent air and water pollution. So here, Romans tried to prevent air and water pollution, or something similar in that phrase.
Archaeologists have also discovered that ancient peoples in China, India, and Peru.
So here would be maybe ancient civilizations in China, or India or Peru, up to you. And some detail.
Practice soil conservation.
Practicing soil conservation. So you might want to say China who practice soil conservation, okay? So that would be a short answer for that. As you can see here, okay, they've not done that the way that I've suggested. Okay, so when did environmental activism begin on a global scale?
Some 2,000 years ago. Then there are the countries of Europe who painfully learned in the 1300s that unsanitary conditions are connected to the spread of disease. Even still, it wasn't until the late 20th century that widespread activism arrived to combat environmental issues.
So in the late 20th century, so the next answer would be the late 20th century. Which two global environmental concerns does the lecturer mention?
In other words, it is only in the last 50 to 60 years that humans have started organizing on an international scale to create a more eco-friendly society. Now, as successful as the environmental movement has been, We are not out of the dark yet, so to speak. Today, there are still numerous environmental problems that threaten our planet. For example, nuclear waste is a global concern,
So one of the global concerns is nuclear waste and
with 31 countries having over 400 nuclear reactors in operation. I won't deny that scientists are inventing technologies to make nuclear energy more efficient and to reduce the waste that it generates. However, nuclear energy can still lead to disasters as shown after the tsunami hit Fukushima Daiichi in Japan in 2011. Then there is the ongoing menace of global warming that
okay, so the next one he talks about is the ongoing menace of global warming. So here you'd be happy to just write global warming.
we are all too familiar with. Carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases are continuing to build up in the Earth's atmosphere as a result of human activity. And, well, I don't think I need to go into detail about the various impacts of global warming in terms of increasing temperatures, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, and so on.
Okay, so here he's actually talked about the impacts of global warming. So we'll go back just a couple of minutes and see if we can get that nuclear reactors answer as well as the global warming.
Countries having over 400 nuclear reactors in operation.
So 400 nuclear reactors in operation, so 400 is fine here. And what are the impacts of global warming?
I won't deny that scientists are inventing technologies to make nuclear energy more efficient and to reduce the waste that it generates. However, nuclear energy can still lead to disasters as shown after the tsunami hit Fukushima Daiichi in Japan in 2011. Then there is the ongoing menace of global warming that we are all too familiar with. Carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases are continuing to build up in the Earth's atmosphere as a result of human activity. And, well, I don't think I need to go into detail about the various impacts of global
Okay, so you hear that he said impacts of global warming. So we're about to hear the three items or some of the items he talks about.
warming in terms of increasing temperature,
So increasing temperature might be one of them.
rising sea levels,
Rising sea levels would be another one.
melting glaciers,
Melting glaciers would be another one.
and so on.
So we've got the three there. Okay. So hopefully you got all of those right the first time. Let's go through and see how you did with the note-taking skills.
While we could easily spend the entire semester listing all the environmental problems that our planet faces, let's start diving deeper into the issues, shall we? For our class today, we are going to discuss what I think is one of the most neglected ecosystems.
One of the most neglected ecosystems in the world. Neglected. Rich in
Systems in the world, which is dangerous because of its rich biodiversity.
Rich in biodiversity. B-I-O, diversity, which means the many different things that live within that space.
I'll give you another hint. This ecosystem supports 25% of all marine life, even though it makes up only 1% of the Earth's ocean floor.
Okay, so 25% of all marine life and 1% of the ocean floor.
Would anyone like to guess? No? The ecosystem I'm referring to is coral reefs. Scientists estimate that 20% of the ocean's coral reefs have already disappeared, with rates as high as 70% in countries like the Philippines.
So 70% in countries like the Philippines. 70. Remember 70 and 17 do sound very similar, but if you're talking about something that is big, profound, 70 sounds like it would be more significant, so it's likely the answer.
At the same time, experts predict that a quarter of the coral reefs in the world today are at risk of being wiped out. If current trends continue, another 30% of our coral reefs will be completely destroyed in the next 30 years.
Okay, so 30% in the next 30 years. So the next 30% will be completely destroyed in the next 30 years. here we've got VIMP. So very important.
And, worst of all, there are no known methods for recovering these lost habitats.
No known methods. So he's used the word recovering, they've used the word restoring. So again, you need to be listening out for the meaning of the word and not specifically for the word itself. So no known methods. No known methods.
What is causing the destruction of coral reefs? Well, fishing is definitely one of the main culprits. Specifically, overfishing is depleting populations of fish species that are essential to maintaining a healthy balance.
So overfishing decreases population of fish species essential to healthy
Of biodiversity in coral reef ecosystem.
biodiversity balance in coral reef ecosystems. So biodiversity balance in coral reef ecosystems.
In addition, there are harmful fishing methods that are being used to catch high yields of fish, such as cyanide poison fishing and using explosive.
Okay, cyanide poisoning. I'll jump over here so you can see how to spell cyanide. Here we are. Cyanide poisoning. I know it starts with a C. Cyanide, yeah, it's a poison that can kind of break down from the inside. So people might sort of die from internal bleeding. It's not a very nice thing.
But these techniques also end up killing other sea life in the process. At the same time, there are global environmental problems that are having a damaging effect on our coral reef systems. In particular, there is a tragic situation called coral bleaching that is destroying our reefs. Because coral needs specific environmental conditions to survive, changes in temperature or water chemistry
or water chemistry. Changes in temperature or water chemistry
can be toxic. The increase in water temperatures due to global warming, along with chemical pollution from industries, puts
from industries, basically meaning companies, so from industries.
Stress on coral reefs. In response, coral reefs expel the sea life that makes them their home, which leads to coral losing color or becoming completely white and dying off.
Coral loses color equals becomes white and dies off, resulting in bleaching. That's what we refer to as bleaching. So we'll listen to the implications.
Hence the term bleaching. So, why should we be concerned about the destruction of coral reefs? I mean, our oceans make up 71% of our Earth's surface, so isn't there enough space for sea life to relocate? Unfortunately, this is not the case. There are numerous reasons why we cannot sit idly by while our coral reefs vanish. In terms of the direct implications to humans, there are local economies that heavily rely on coral reefs. In the Florida Keys alone,
so we've got here Florida Keys, so the answer is coming up.
There are over 33,000 jobs that are
33,000 jobs, so 33,000 jobs
supported by tourism and recreation that the coral reefs help to bring in. Meanwhile, indigenous communities around the world depend on coral reefs for their livelihood, including food and income. Then, when looking at the greater picture, the extinction of coral reefs is a risk to the survival of all life on the planet.
So extinction is a risk to all life on the planet.
Because all living things are interconnected, each species that is lost has a huge impact on the existence of other species.
Okay, and we'll see indigenous communities, food and income. Okay, so it impacts both of those things. Good, okay, so hopefully you got all of the answers for that. The next thing that you're going to do is change this into a summary. So we're going to practice our summary writing. So again, a good summary has the same meaning as the original: complete, logically organized, and clear and concise. So here they've actually summarised the first section for you, and I'd love you to read along with me if you could. Coral reefs are one of the most neglected ecosystems in the world. They are rich in biodiversity and support 25% of all marine life, yet they only cover 1% of the ocean floor. So in order to write this, they've just referred only to this part, okay? So they haven't re-listened to the lecture, they've used their notes to then write a summary, which is exactly what you should be doing when you're doing your podcast listening. You need to write your notes first and then turn the podcast off and only use your own notes to write the summary. This presents, yes, plagiarism. Okay. Coral reefs are disappearing fast. 20% of all reefs have already disappeared, and the figure is as high as 70% in some countries, such as the Philippines. 25% of remaining reefs are at risk of being wiped out, with another 30% expected to be completely destroyed in the next 30 years. Significantly, there are no known methods for restoring them. Okay, so I've just used this section and changed it into a paragraph. Okay, so they've summarized that section into this. Again, saying, is it logically organized? Is it clear and concise? Then it means that you've got a good summary. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to use your notes about causes to write a summary of causes similar to this, okay? So you're going to be using this don't know why that's done that. You're going to be using this information, just the causes aspect. So only this information. Do not listen to the lecture again just yet, just that information to complete a summary, okay? So the beginning has been done. There are two main reasons for coral reefs disappearing, namely fishing practices and global environmental problems. So then you can complete your summary here. As usual, please then take a screenshot, a snip, or send me in a Word document, in a written Word document. Please do try and send through on WeChat. It's just easier for me to monitor who's given what rather than jumping from one place to another, okay? So that's all we're going to be doing for that section today. Then I'm going to introduce you to your podcast requirement in just a moment. So please get this through to me. That is your homework for today. And I'll see you in the next online class. Thank you very much.